welcome back. Today we're starting a beginner-friendly mini-series where we'll go step by step through simple watercolor paintings like these. These projects are designed to help you practice the basic watercolor skills such as wet on wet, wet on dry, blending, shadows, highlights, and more. To make it super easy for you, I've also put together these free sketches that you can find on my website. You can download and print them at home so you don't have to worry about drawing. You can just focus on the fun of painting. Let's get started with these mini projects for fall. So this right here is my Winsor Newton watercolor paints that I have taken from the tube and put it inside this palette that I got off of Amazon. I have a tapping cloth right here. It's always good to have one. That way you don't have excess water on your page. I also have my two water cups right here. One I use for cool paints and one I use for my warmer paint colors. I also have right here my dryer. I like to use this to speed up the process between layers. These are the brushes that I use. These are the silver black velvet. I have size 12, 4, and 8, and these are the round tip brushes. I'm using this painting as an example. I always like to have painter's tape on hand. I like to paint down my paintings. It's easier to one, film, and to also just keep everything from moving around and it getting a little messy. It also helps to protect your desk, which you'll see mine is very worn. So it definitely does help with that. To get started, we are going to use the wet on wet technique when we put a wet surface down and we paint with another wet surface, which creates soft blends, which is perfect for a project like this. So once you have your water all over your little leaf here, you're going to start mixing up some colors. So I have some maroon, some greens, a little bit of reds, and then once you have your colors mixed, we can start dropping in the color inside of our leaf. You'll see once you touch your wet surface with the color, it just starts to spread and bleed and blend, and that's exactly what we are looking for here. You can also use a lot more pigment, so it's very bright and vibrant in some spots, and then use a little bit more water with your color in others, so it's a lot lighter. And then once you have a good amount of your first layer down, I did more of a maroon color here, you can start introducing more orange tones. You can even add a little bit of green tones into it, and just have these colors bleed and blend into one another for your leaf. When I paint with watercolor, I always like to make sure I have a highlight in there. So in order to get a highlight here, what I did was I put my brush into some clean water. I tapped a napkin and I used that damp brush to just scoop some of the pigment up, as you see right here. And then that way I can just have some nice highlight zones within my leaf. I feel like it just makes it more realistic. And I also like to add a little bit more of a darker contrast within my colors as well. So I mix in a little bit of a darker color in some areas as well, just so I have that light and that shadow in there as well. So if you like your leaf here like this, you can definitely leave it, but I like mine to be a little bit more vibrant. So you'll see here I'm using my dryer to dry my leaf so I can add a second layer so that some areas are more bright and vibrant. And this is called the wet on dry technique, and this is when your colors literally just sit on top and you'll see they're a lot more bright than when it was the wet on wet. And I'm using a clean brush, a damp brush, to just blend out the edges. That way I have no harsh lines within my page. And I'm just going to do this in certain spots just so I can have a little bit more vibrancy with my shadows. And then I come in and I just create the veins that you'll naturally see within a leaf. I used a wash of a color, which means that I just applied some water into my brown. That way it just wasn't so harsh and in my face. And then I used the very tip of my brush to create very thin lines. I even used a little bit of pressure onto my pinky. So before we move on to the shadow, we want to make sure that this leaf is 100% dry. I'm coming in with my shadow color and applying it just below my leaf, but if my leaf was still wet, the blue would bleed into the brown and the brown would bleed into the blue, and it would just be a hot mess. So please make sure that that leaf is 100% dry. And again, I'm grabbing a damp brush and I'm just smoothing out the edges, just making sure there's no harsh lines right here for my shadow. And there you have your maple leaf. I hope that you had fun painting this along with me. Please check out some of my other videos that I have, and I'll paint with you soon.